And you're live.
All right.
All right.
Vaidas.
Hi, Jurgen.
Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you again, too. And it's very nice to know that we will see you in Vilnius very soon as well.
I'm looking forward to it. I've been there 2 years ago or something, right? You told me. Yeah.
Yes, it looks like. It was
All
2
right.
years ago. Agile tour, and we are very happy to have you this year as well, for both for the training and the keynote. And actually, I've been getting a lot of questions from people because they said we already listened to Jurgen. We already, some of them were in your training. So why, for example, we should attend a second time your training or to go to listen to you again? So this was one of the reasons why we wanted to have even the intro talk with you before you coming to Vilnius, so everyone would be more happy and more excited to see you. So we have, what, about 20 people here in the room, and we have, I don't know how many, but Lisette said that there are quite a few registered, so watching us online.
All right. Hello, everyone.
Yeah, so I guess I could do intro of you, but maybe you can do short intro of yourself. That would be more, not telling me who you are, and you are changing, as you said, 2 years a lot. So what happened in those 2 years, and just introduce yourself.
All right. Well, my name is Jurgen Appelo. I'm from the Netherlands, and I just released a third book called Workout, which is a follow-up of the first two, particularly the first one called Management 3.0. And it is all about better management with fewer managers. The third book has a specific focus on concrete practices that we can start doing next week. Because based on my first book, I've done a 2-day class all over the world. I've been to Vilnius as well, as you said, but many other countries too. And the one question that kept coming back was, what are the specific, the concrete practices that we can start implementing or start experimenting with next week? Because the theory is all very nice, systems thinking and complexity science, and all those models look amazing. But what are the steps, the simple steps for next week? So I set out to write a book about that, and that is what my new workshop is about, that I have developed over the last half year. And I've been doing it in a number of countries, and I will be back in Vilnius as well. And this 90% is new content. Few topics, 2 topics that are already discussed in the first 2-day class, but everything else is new, like salary formulas, improvement dialogues, and celebration grids and personal maps. It's all new stuff. So I think that's a good reason to come and join me again and discuss the newest trends in business around the world.
Great. So you already started introducing your books. That was basically my following question.
Okay, sorry about that.
No, it's good. So it's you said yourself that you started with Management 3.0 book, which I guess most of us know, and then there were Happy Melee one, which you didn't tell about. So maybe you can shortly tell what's the second and third, like what's the differences between those.
The second book, you mean? The second book is called How to Change the World. And I wrote that one. Basically, it emerged sort of because people kept asking me how we change the organization's culture, how do we introduce new ideas, and I felt that was not properly explained in my first book. So I created that presentation around it, and the presentation was quite popular. So I wrote a bit of text to explain the presentation for other people who did not attend, and then that basically turned into a book, unplanned, basically. So like the opposite of the first book, which was a completely planned book, the second one was unplanned, and it's very small. The third book is again a bigger project.
So if someone wants to get and to understand your ideas and thinking, must they read the books in a row, like reading Management 3.0, then the next one, or can you pick?
No, you don't. You can read them from back to front and from the first to the last. It doesn't really matter. I made sure that every chapter in my third book is a standalone chapter. Actually, I already released everything for free as individual PDFs that people have been reading by the thousands over the last 1 or 2 years. Everything is already out there, so you can download the individual chapters, you can download the whole book. That is easier, of course, and you can get the Kindle version if you find that more easy to read. That's up to you. But you can read also the last book. You can start in the middle, as far as I'm concerned. Doesn't matter, because there are 18 or 20 different practices, each described in a separate chapter.
Okay, so maybe let's get down now to this last book, the workout. As you already told, this is, if I understand correctly, a set of concrete practices you can start using. So, and as far as I know, there is already 14 of them released, yes? So how many of them are going to be in the final version?
Well, it depends on how you count, because for some practices I describe 2 in 1 chapter. I believe there are 19 chapters with practices, but some of those chapters offer multiple practices. So in total, I would say about 25, 26 suggestions, things that you can start doing next week. I have released most of them. There are, I think, about 3 left as individual design chapters, and one of them will be sent tonight over the mailing list. And then we have a couple more to do, and then it's done. Then everything is out there online.
So as always, when you read your list, I have a question. How did you decide to pick those, what you said, 19? Because I guess there is many more out there. So what were your criteria for choosing them? And maybe the following second question would be, maybe you have a favorite one, or which one you think will change the world the most?
2 very good questions. How did I select them? I think they simply selected themselves because I found them interesting to write about. There are useful practices that everyone is already aware of, and that they're already covered in plenty of other Agile or Lean books, and I thought, let's not cover that. I mean, value stream mapping or A3 thinking, such suggestions are very concrete techniques and tools. I didn't bother to write about that because other people have done a great job describing those practices, so there's nothing for me to add. I tried to write about things that were not described elsewhere. And then pick the ones that were most interesting. And I had a backlog. Yes, I had a backlog as well. And a couple of couple of chapters are still in the idea phase, but they never got finished because I thought, okay, I've had it. Let's finish this book. I'm tired of writing. So a couple of ideas dropped off the backlog, and maybe they will it be transferred to another book in the future? I don't know. We'll see.
Okay. And the second part of the question, so which one is the most favorite, or which one will change the world the most?
Well, that's I have a couple of favorites for different reasons. I think Delegation Board is one of my favorites because it is very easy to start with, because you're not changing anything, basically. Like with putting up a task board, as people do with Scrum and with Kanban, you're simply visualizing the workflow. You don't have to change anything. You just show people what we're doing now by making it very visible. And that in itself invites a response and change by having people talk about it. And that is what the Delegation Board does as well with self-organization and empowerment. If teams or managers struggle with self-organizing teams, or managers not delegating enough, or team members not picking up tasks, this is all usually because of confusion around authority. Who gets to decide, make decision in which key decision areas? So simply put up a delegation board and visualize how things are, and then you get people to talk. It's the easiest step that you can make. You don't have to change anyone's job. So that's one favorite. Another favorite is the one that is perhaps the most controversial. That would be about money. So merit money. Have people decide together how much they think other people deserve a bonus by distributing the bonus money among each other. Everyone has a part of the bonus money available, and they can give it to other people, but not to themselves. This is an idea that is already practiced by a number of companies. Last week I read that Medium.com and Shopify.com practice this, and there were just another couple of new names that I found of companies already starting experimenting with such a merit money system. But this is controversial, and that's why I like it, because it gets people talking and asking questions. But what if this happens, and what if that happens, and that's fun.
Just to be clear, is it from the last one, salary formula chapter?
No, that is another one. That is the how to decide monthly compensation. The merit money article will be sent tonight over the mailing list.
Okay. So you left the money thing for the end.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Because these are one of the most probably often asked questions among our community as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, like the last one you published was salary formula. I haven't read it yet, so have no clue what's written in it. But so maybe you can tell in short what is the right formula for salary?
Well, there is no right formula for salary. You have to create the formula yourself, because the formula depends on the culture that you want to have in your company. But the principle is that you stop having people negotiate about their salaries, because that is a bad thing. If people negotiate with managers about their salary, you favor people who are good at negotiating. And only some people are good at negotiating, and other people are not so good at negotiating. While this negotiation skill has nothing to do with the job that they have to perform in the organization. And it is well known that extroverts are better at negotiating than introverts, for example. It is well known that on average, and I'm generalizing here, but on average, women are good at negotiating for other people, and men are good at negotiating for themselves. So the salary system that men have put into place favor men because they are good at negotiating for themselves. So it would be fair to get rid of it and simply publish, discuss a salary formula that calculates how much you earn. And there are companies doing that. I just had someone in my class last week in Zurich. He said, yes, we have a salary formula. Nobody is negotiating anything, and everyone, when they apply for a job, they already know what they're going to earn, and it depends on job title, job level, experience, education. Doesn't matter. That's for you to decide. And he said everyone is happy with it. Nobody needs to negotiate. It is all transparent and fair, and that saves you a lot of political wheeling and dealing, and dare I say, ass kissing of the managers, etc., etc.
Are you saying that these formulas are public? So everyone.
Well, in this particular company, it is public for the people who work at that company. Everyone needs to know what the formula needs to be. But there is an example of Buffer, the social media company in New York. They published it on their blog last year. And after they published their salary formula, the number of job applicants tripled. They had 3 times as many people applying for a job. And it was not because the formula said they would earn so much money, because they wouldn't, because it's just a startup. They don't have that much money. But it was the fairness and transparency that was communicated that way. Look, we have a formula, we do not negotiate, this is what you get, take it or leave it. And many people actually like that, particularly the people who don't like negotiating, I guess.
Okay, so I have two then following questions. If
All right.
stay a bit on this topic, which is always interesting, the money. So doesn't that move negotiating then to the next level? So now you're not negotiating about your salary directly, but you're negotiating when should I get the other title, or when should I get the promotions from junior to regular, or things like that. Generally, you're now negotiating with your manager your composition of that formula.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it?
Yes. Could be, but depends on what you have in the variable. I mean, if you have education as part of the formula, for example, then there needs to be a couple of rules that say which education counts as part of the salary formula and what doesn't. And this can be on a wiki page, and people can discuss it together, and it is a discussion that involves everyone instead of people just negotiating for themselves. So I don't see anything wrong with that. It is at least a system that favors people in a different way than simply favoring people who are good at negotiating. Job titles, I don't know, it depends on what you want, but I had people in my classes say that they don't want job titles in the salary formula. So that makes perfect sense for some organizations. So that would also mean people cannot negotiate a better job title because it makes no difference for their salary. Right?
Great. And what about the HR department a lot talk about extra performance? There are always few people that are cool, but they don't want to be like managers or whatever, so they have to earn, I don't know, some extra stuff. Isn't that the issue, or it's again misunderstanding of the concept?
Well, first of all, it should not be the HR department who decides who is performing better than others. This should be done by peers, and this is what the merit money system is about. This should not be part of the salary formula. So performance is one variable that should not be part of the salary formula, because you cannot measure performance. There is no objective variable. You can easily decide what counts as education. You can easily decide what counts as job position or age or cost of living, depending where you live. So these are all relatively simple things. But performance, what is performance? Nobody can tell me how to measure performance. So don't include that as part of the salary. This should be part of the merit money system, how people reward each other. And that's an entirely different system. And that comes on top of salary formula.
So personal performance should not be part of the formula, salary.
Right. Exactly, because nobody can tell me how to measure it.
Okay. Okay, so let's maybe leave out the topic from money. If anyone has a question, so just ask or raise a hand.
You mentioned titles. Should we have titles like junior, regular, senior, or should we not? What is benefit for and not benefit of having one or the other?
I guess you didn't hear, so I'll repeat the question. Yeah?
Please.
Okay, so the question was, what is your opinion? So should we have probably not the titles, but the simple example? There are usually developers that are junior, regular, and senior. So should we have them or shouldn't we? That probably was the question.
Mm-hmm. Right. So that is experience levels. I would say. Yeah. Yes. Why not? The same applies to any other kind of job category or title or whatever you want to call them. In the company where I worked a number of years ago, we had a trainee, a junior, media, senior, master. So 5 levels, and that applied to developers, but also to project managers, also to business consultants, also to system administrators. So they all had 5 levels. And then you can decide together how do people advance from one level to the other. Well, that's up to you. If this is a manager's decision, or if this needs to be voted on by peers or whatever. It would be a bit silly if everyone was senior, then the label doesn't make much sense, right? So there should be some kind of differentiation.
So, but coming back to the last topic, should this be part of the salary formula then?
Well, you keep asking, should this or should this not? That's up to you, Vaidas. It's your business, it's your culture, so you decide whether or not you want it part of the formula. It's not for me to decide how other people run their business.
Okay, so you're not telling what would be your advice in this situation.
No, I'm not telling other people how to run their company. I'm just suggesting that they work with a formula to stop negotiating and then to add merit money as part of a mutual peer performance measurement system, because nobody can give me an objective variable of performance. So let's just decide on this together in a democratic way.
Okay, so rolling back a bit to more maybe generic topic, because yes, probably most of people here know you, but still, you are trying to compare this and calling this as management 3.0 model. So maybe you can just briefly tell the difference from 1.0 and 2.0 for those who maybe haven't read in your book, and why you came up again with a new name. I know that you want always to come up with new names, but
well, I've been using the Management 3.0 name for 4 years already, so I'm still quite happy with it. But I use it as a metaphor. Management 1.0 is doing exactly the wrong thing, like treating people as if they are parts of a machine, like removing a person from a team and putting that person on another team, with the argument that this person will have better performance over there or something, without taking into account personal relationships and social dynamics of the team, etc. So that's as if they are just the cogs of a machine. Management 2.0 is trying to do the right thing, but then having it completely wrong, not understanding social dynamics and not getting rid of the hierarchy. So, for example, I believe servant leadership is a great idea, but I always say it is 2.0 if the suggestion is always that the managers are there to lead their employees, and sometimes it's suggested that managers should be coaches of their employees. I think that's nonsense. Peter Drucker, the famous management guru, already said 30 years ago that managers cannot be coaches of knowledge workers because they have no idea how they do their jobs. My manager had no idea how to write software, so how could he be a coach for me as a senior software developer in the past? It's the same with many other kinds of managers. So servant leadership is an example of 2.0. It's trying to do a good thing. It may at least better than 1.0, step in the right direction. But there's still this hierarchical mindset. Like the managers are assumed to be smarter because that's why they are managers. And I think that's nonsense. I think it should be a network. And managers are not managing the people, they are managing the system in which people are trying to do a great job. So it's also not the managers who decide who has the best performance. It is people together who decide who has the best performance, but there should be some kind of system for that. That is what the managers are responsible for introducing a system where people can evaluate each other's performance. So that is the difference between 2.0 and 3.0. 2.0 is trying to do the right thing, but people often cling on to the hierarchy. They don't want to get rid of the hierarchy. And with 3.0, we're really trying to see the organization as a community, as a network of people working together towards a purpose.
So that's a very interesting topic to follow up. So, because yes, probably our brains are wired about the hierarchy, and when I, for example, talk with anyone, even in my now company, about changing it a bit or using new practices, you always get back to the org chart or hierarchy. So what is your advice, where to start when you start discussing these issues? Because I think just our brain works that there has to be hierarchy.
I'm sorry, I didn't get the last part. Our brain works, that you said?
I don't know, but I think at least my brain always tries to roll back to this hierarchy level model. So what is your advice, like how to approach changing people's mind that there are other models and with network organization, which you just described? What is the first step when you're discussing these issues?
Well, the first step is not to deny that there is a hierarchy. There is a hierarchy, and it is useful for specific things like having authority trickle down the hierarchy 3, because somebody needs to hire somebody else and is responsible then for that person being hired. And so there is a reason why we have hierarchies, but we should not rely on the hierarchy for people communicating with each other. This happens in plenty of organizations. Oh, you have to go through the manager to be able to talk with a person in another department. That makes no sense. We should see communication and collaboration of people as taking place in networks. But don't forget, indeed, that there's a hierarchy and that people rely on hierarchies for certain things. That's only natural. But people need to learn a bit more about how social networks work and how to be influencers in social networks. There are examples of people who have completely changed their organizations, but they were not the top manager. They were just another employee somewhere in the network, but they learned how to be influencers, how to have people listen to their ideas and to be convincing, and to introduce changes that were not rejected by the culture of the organization. And then slowly things were being turned around. It is easier if you are the CEO, because then you have more influence and certainly more power, more authority. But there are plenty of influencers in companies who are not at the top level, and they have developed quite a lot of influence in other ways, and are able to have their ideas introduced in companies. Without influence, forget it. So that's what my last chapter is about in my book. It's about the Chamfrog's model, which is about again about change, how to get people to believe in your idea and to think that it's a good thing to try. Because I have lots of suggestions for practices, but for many of them you need people on your team to say, yeah, great idea, let's start doing this next Monday. So you need some skills at convincing people.
So is it one of the reasons why you created this new term, creative networker, instead of knowledge worker, which is used now everywhere in publicity?
Yes, well, the term knowledge worker is already a few decades old. And it was it was a good term at the time, but nowadays we read more and more that it is not about knowledge, because knowledge disappears much faster, and we need new knowledge all the time. The focus is now on learning and not on knowledge. Actually, some experts advise, for example, to hire people not primarily for their skills, which is like their current knowledge and experience, but for their capability at learning. Because somebody is great at learning might be behind someone else with great skills, but because he's a faster learner, he's able to take over the other person very fast. So learning is the better skill, and creativity. Steve Denning, famous keynote speaker in the Agile communities, emphasizes the creative economy as the follow-up to the industrial economy, and I forgot the name of the second one, to be honest. So it's all about creativity and learning. And yes, I prefer networks over hierarchy, so I have changed the knowledge workers into creative networkers. I think that term applies quite well to the 21st century.
Cool. I'll just pause here a bit and ask if we have any questions in the
Sure.
audience yet. Yeah, I'll need to plug in. That's a good note.
Okay, so usually retros are finished by list of actions, and usually in this list very funny things like good communication. So yeah, there are a lot of reasons for on individual level or at team level?
Yeah, I probably will need to repeat the question, yes?
Yes, please.
So correct me if I'm repeating it right. Denise said that they're doing retrospectives, of course, and usually the topic of improved communication pops up as the output of retrospective. That was not enough or not good or whatever communication. So the question was,
Will be your list of practices.
yeah, do you have a list of practices or advices that will be in this book, how to improve communication?
So there is one particular quote that I remember from one of the books of Ralph Stacey. He is a complexity researcher in the UK. That stood out to me, and he said, no matter what you do, no matter how many tools or how many processes and practices you throw at organizations, the complaint is always there is not enough good communication. And this seems to be an unsolvable problem. He said, what if this is simply the way things need to be? You can try anything you want, install 1,000 tools and install try lots of different practices, but there will always be not enough communication. So this is the natural state of things. Like, there is always not enough money. Well, get used to it. Every one of us always does not have enough money. Well, live with it. There are only very, very few people in the world who say, yes, this is enough. Because as soon as you have more, your needs will also go up. So you can introduce tools for better communication, but then people's need for better communication will likewise climb to the next level, and they will still complain there's not enough communication. So that is one of my observations. I understand the question, but I also think it's basically unsolvable. That doesn't mean that there are no good practices. Of course there are. There are good tools and bad tools. There are good practices and bad practices. One suggestion that I offer in my book is personal maps, which is not a communication tool itself, but it emphasizes that we need to get to know each other better as people working in an organization. And if you care more about the people that you're working with, because you know more about them, you know about their hobbies and their families and their purpose in life and their values. If you care more about them, then quite naturally you will communicate better with those people. And you will use the best tools at your disposal. Last week we were struggling at Happy Valley with using Google Hangouts. Okay, well, we switched to Skype. That wasn't working either, so we switched to a third tool, and we were simply being creative and improvising. But we cared because we wanted to talk. It was not like, okay, well, Hangout is not working, let's give up. There's another chance next week. No, we persisted. There must be a tool that works today because we want to talk. And so we can discuss about what is the best tool. Well, usually I prefer Hangouts until it sucks, and then maybe I skip that I use Skype, but it didn't let me in, so I had to use the third one. These discussions are interesting, but more interesting is how do we get to care about other people so that we, no matter how much the tools are annoying us and the practices aren't working for us, we keep trying different ones until they work for us and we can actually talk because we care about our conversation. So my preference is to talk about the narrowing the mental distance between people, as I suggest with the personal maps exercise. You basically draw a mind map of another person, like what are their hobbies and families and etc. And then you realize, I actually know very, very little about that other person. The page is staring at you, and half of it is blank. So that invites you to ask better questions. I'm sure other people have lots of suggestions for better communication tools and practices, but I don't go there in in my book.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, so we have a few minutes to think more. So, just trying to pick which one, which to ask. So, still, I would like to get a bit to, because I think this is at least hottest topic here, about performance, because we tend to think that the only thing that managers should care, or the company should care, is performance. At the end, either you earn money or not, and we often see those usually examples from quite successful companies, but there is always tendency to think they were successful first, got money, then they give a lot of toys for kids to play in the company.
Yeah.
So is this again the bad look at things, or what does management 3.0 offer to improve performance?
Well, no matter where I go, I often get the same question, which is, how do we measure the performance of teams? Because almost everyone seems to be interested in that one single metric that defines performance of people. And then I ask people, when they ask me this question, I ask them, how do you measure your own performance? And then usually they have no idea. They have no idea how to measure their own performance. And then my reply is, well, if you have no idea how to measure your own performance, how can you possibly start thinking about measuring somebody else's performance? Solve that first problem first, before having the arrogance of measuring another person's performance. So the management 3.0 approach is to make sure that everyone is measuring their own performance. This should be mandated. This is one thing that managers are allowed to expect from people, in my opinion. If you work at an organization, you measure your own performance and you report your performance, but the way you measure your own performance, that's up to you. Well, it's like we're working with professionals here, and I often compare it with athletes who are trying to win the Olympics. The way they measure their own performance, that is something that they decide for themselves, together with a good coach, I hope. And usually the sports federation has very little rules on what you should measure, what you shouldn't measure. They expect people to measure themselves. Obviously, show us something where you show that you improve. So this should be the same in organizations. Managers should expect that people measure stuff, that they have targets for themselves, that they have goals for themselves, that they try to reach those targets, and that they report on what they have achieved. But do not give a target to another person. Give a target to yourself, and then report to everyone else how you did. So that gives everyone a mindset, teaches everyone a mindset of professionalism. And that is very much like the implementation of OKRs at Google and many other Silicon Valley companies nowadays, with objectives and key results, as they are called. Everyone is responsible for their own metrics. And Google now is the #1 brand in the world since a couple of months. They beat Apple in that area, and one reason I think is because they have a fantastic performance measurement system. No manager at Google is wondering, how can I measure the performance of other people? No, they're simply asking everyone, how are you measuring yourself? And report it to me, because that is the one thing that I can demand as a manager, that you are a professional and that you try to be better. So that is my view on performance measurement. There is not one variable, but everyone should be smart enough to figure out a number of metrics for themselves to show that they are becoming better at what they're doing and that they contribute somehow to the company's purpose.
Cool. Yeah, I'll just ask more often now for questions because we have a few minutes left. So
okay.
Cool. No. So then I have probably 2 wrapping up questions. One is, so yes, you read your book, any first one, second, or finish reading last one, and there are a lot of practices, and there was a lot of tools and thinking tools. And when you start thinking, so if I go to my company and start implementing all of them, then there is no time to actually do the work. So
Yeah.
what is your kind of view and comment on that? How companies that you mentioned as examples, for example, are using them? Is it where is the time to do the actual work then?
Well, I believe that first of all that you should not do everything. You should make a selection. Like I have an app on my smartphone that lists hundreds of workout exercises, physical workout exercises, but I do very few. I do a few that matter to me, that I think are important considering the context and my environment where I am in and the progress that I am making. So you should select a few. Maybe start with one and add another one next month. But I cannot predict which one would be best for you. That is for you to decide. It depends. Like I have I have used the delegation board in my workshops, but I have not used the delegation board in other contexts because I didn't need it. There was no problem. So why would I introduce the practice? Because there was no problem to solve. So it depends on the practice and the problems that you want to solve in the organization. So that's one. Don't do anything. Just pick and choose. Second, things should not only cost you time. I mean, some things we do will give you time, will generate time for you because you invest in improvement. That means you go faster ultimately, it's the same with workout exercises. Some people say that there's actually scientific proof that more people die when they do workout exercises. That makes sense, right? Because it is stressful for your body to do workout exercises. So it would be a stupid argument to say, well, let's not work out because there's only an increased risk of dying. Well, no, in the other time when you're not working out, then your life expectancy is actually prolonged, right? You live longer because you invest in working out. Well, it's the same with my workout practices. I mean, you can see them as a waste of time, and then they are perhaps if you have if your goal is for your company to exist for only 2 years and then it dies because it is unable to keep everyone because nobody's motivated and engaged and everyone just walks away and the company goes bankrupt or something. Or you could invest in workout exercises. Yes, they cost you a bit of time, but they will make your company survive for much longer. What is it that you want?
Okay, great. So now we have the last opportunity to ask a question. And someone is curious how you make your living because he asks, so why all your books are the last 2 books are for free?
Because I'm an idiot. No, I'm just kidding. It's what I found important is that as many people as possible are able to read about these workout exercises because for companies, of course, because I believe they are useful and I'm trying to help people have better jobs in better companies. And plenty of people cannot afford books. There are countries in the world where it's impossible to buy stuff from Amazon, or people simply don't have the money. So that's why I made a PDF version for free. And I simply hope and expect that some people are prepared to pay for a Kindle version or the exclusive design edition when it's available on paper, etc. And that will generate a bit of income. When people say, well, the PDF is nice, but it's easier to read on the Kindle version, and it's only $10 or something. So that's a bit of income. Also, some people say, and I'm sort of testing this, when you have a free version available, it only increases the sales of the paid version because the book is so much better known around the world because of all the free versions. That's a theory. I cannot validate it easily, but I hope it works. And then of course there's speaking at conferences and the licensing of the courses that I do around the world. That is all part of my income, which is all the things add up basically to a full picture. This is also part of being an author in the 21st century, by the way. In the past, people said, why don't you come and speak at our conference for free? Because then you can promote your book and people will buy your book. And they don't realize that nowadays it's the other way around. The books are free, they cost almost nothing. And the books are there to promote a person, a writer, as a public speaker. Because that is where the real income is from speaking. You earn more as a speaker, as a writer, basically. So that's all changed in the last couple of years. I actually read that some authors, they don't even do book tours, free book tours anymore, because there's so little that you can earn as an author. But you need to have additional revenue streams as a speaker or with additional exclusive content where people can subscribe to, etc. Anyways, if you want to know more about business models, just come and talk to me in Vilnius.
You are a managed expert, so you should know how to make business. If you would be a poor person, probably wouldn't listen to you.
Exactly. Well, I try to become an expert. I'm still learning, Vaidas. I'm still learning.
Okay, so I guess that was more or less it. So just we have one last question, if you can.
All right, quick one.
Quick one. So he already, I guess, he asked if you do anything with except writing the books. So probably it would be speaking, training. Yes. I mean, anything extra. Yeah. Do you do any actual implementation of all this work, like probably full-time or some coaching in the company rather than just giving a training or?
I am CEO of Happy Melly. So I run a company together with Lisette and Sergey and Vashko and plenty of other people who are involved. It is a very strange kind of company because it is a networked organization instead of a hierarchical organization. But we have plenty of opportunities to try our own practices and practice what we preach. Like, for example, merit money is a practice that we use ourselves. Same applies to other practices that I've tried myself and implemented, like personal maps and delegation board. What I prefer to do is travel all around the world and have this 30,000 feet view of what happens everywhere. I see that as the value that I can add to the community. While most people are local coaches and consultants, they focus on certain geographical areas and they go deeper. That is true. They go deeper than I can do because they work with specific customers and clients. And I cannot do that because I want to be free to travel all around the world. That means that I do not have the deep experience with one specific customer, but I talk with thousands of people around the world, so I know the patterns of what is happening. Like I've been to Japan, to China, Australia, South America, everywhere, that's a different kind of value, basically, that I have. So the best combination, and that is why Management 3.0 brand is licensed. The best combination is ideas that I pick up from around the world and I disseminate them with nice illustrations in a book, and then you work with an experienced coach or consultant, that would not be me, to implementing those practices at your organization. And then you would need a person probably who's local, who knows the Lithuanian culture, knows Lithuanian business, etc. I'm not able to do that because I'm there only once every 2 years.
That's often enough, I think, for us.
I think so too.
So, any last words you want to say for people who maybe there are still a few places left in your training course, why they should come, or your keynote that will be online? It's just, you told a lot of things, but anything to wrap up?
Well, I've been talking for only 40 minutes, 45 minutes now, so there's plenty more to discuss, but even more valuable is sharing experiences with other people. So that is why participants come to my workshops not only to hear me, but also to play games and have discussions and do exercises together with other participants. Because that's where the fun is, basically, and to hear different opinions and share experiences. So hopefully some people will sign up to the workshop. I think we have a good number already, but there's still room for more. And if not, I will see you at the conference at Agile Tour, and I look forward to that.
Great. So thank you, Jurgen, a lot for your time, and see you very soon in Vilnius.
All right. See you. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye. I can show you. I'm not sure if we can turn around the computer.
Ah, there's the room. All right. Hi, everyone.
I needed to plug you off the speakers just so. Okay, so bye.
Okay, bye-bye.